All right, all right. I'll weigh in on DeSantis and, to a lesser extent, Greg Abbott owning the libs by shipping illegals to northern cities. Now, it's kind of funny that DeSantis has kind of stolen Abbott's thunder. This was Abbott's idea originally. And when Abbott, I think he was talking about it maybe in the Republican primary. I think maybe the primary election hadn't happened yet. But whatever the case, when Abbott first started talking about this, I have to give him credit. I totally doubted him. I did not think he would ever go through with something like this. I thought it was all bluster. And to his credit, he did start doing this. He did start busing illegal immigrants up to northern cities, most of which I believe are all officially sanctuary cities, meaning they will, obstruct immigrations and customs enforcement if they seek to come into these cities and remove, illegal immigrants and deport them. But, the big news today, despite this being, Abbott's baby, is that DeSantis sent two plane loads full of illegals to Martha's Vineyard. Now, Abbott usually does buses, which is much cheaper. Chartering private jets, I would think, probably pretty expensive. But nevertheless, that is what DeSantis did, and it landed in Martha's Vineyard, apparently. And that sleepy little town full of billionaires is apparently none too happy about it. Now, I don't want to talk too much about that because that's probably what you're going to be hearing everywhere. What I want to address is the controversy, the debate that people are having between, hey, sure, you're owning the libs by sending illegals up to these northern cities, but, as Carrie Lake put it, you're taking illegal immigrants that should be deported, and you're just helping them get deeper and deeper into the United States, where they, almost certainly will never be deported. Why don't we just, close the border and deport the illegals? And I think that Carrie Lake's position would have been, overwhelmingly the dominant one on the American right, until a few years ago. Probably right up until 2016, I would say, even. That would have been the only position of, a staunch conservative. But the reason why, even though I'm not one of the biggest immigration hawks in the world, I do understand that it is a problem, though, and I do know why so many people are so passionate about it. What DeSantis and Abbott are doing is sort of black-pilled, and I appreciate that about it. What they're doing is they're accepting, hey, we can't control the federal government. The federal government, presidents come and they go, and the situation at the border is always bad. When Trump was, kick something. When Trump was president, there were a lot less illegals coming because people, got the message from him that, hey, you shouldn't come here or whatever. And so that deterred a lot of people from coming. But you still had folks flooding over, and there was a lot of the same problems, though it was not as bad when you had old Donaldo Trump around. Illegal immigration was still a problem, even under him. And now I think, by all accounts, it has gotten much worse, and there's nothing that these governors can do about it. The governors, as of yet, aren't really in a position to deport people. At least I don't think. I haven't seen anybody try that. And so, rather than just laying down and accepting that, I guess we just got to vote harder next time and make sure we get a president in there who will stop all this illegal, migration stuff, they are mitigating the problem of illegal immigration by sending all the illegals to deep blue cities and deep blue states and saying, here, you wanted them, they're your problem, you deal with it. Because it was something that we saw early in the Biden administration were these flights taking illegals from Texas and planting them in competitive or red areas. These people were being resettled all throughout the country by the Biden administration. They were being sent to places like Tennessee and Minnesota, and all sorts of places you just wouldn't think of. I think we even had a plane of illegals land here in Florida. And so I appreciate what Abbott and DeSantis are doing by trying to counteract that by, giving them a taste of their own medicine. I think this is the correct response. The immigration hawks can, whine all they want about, in a perfect world, we would close the borders. It's like, well, you're not getting that right now. Not right this second. Do you think that these illegals would be easier to round up if they were in red states instead of blue states? If you just let the Biden folks ship all these people to Tennessee and turn Tennessee blue just the way that illegal immigration turned California blue? And, well, I don't know so much illegal, but legal immigration certainly, I think, from what I understand, was one of the dominant factors in turning Virginia into a blue state. So I don't believe that just, standing by and letting that happen is a good idea. Even if it's out of, principle of, oh my gosh, we can't, be settling these illegals. We can't, be lifting one finger to do anything that can be seen to help them. As far as I'm concerned, it makes the national divorce easier. Places like Martha's Vineyard and New York City and Chicago are already disaster areas. They're not getting any better. So if you take all these illegals who shouldn't be here in America and put them in places like New York City and Martha's Vineyard and Washington, D.C., guess what? They're pretty much out of America anyway. That is the same as, they will have as much impact. Well, I shouldn't quite say that. They're not going to make New York much worse. That's the point. If they stay there. Sure, can they leave? Yeah. But a lot of them are going to settle there, and they're going to stay where they're put. The same is true when the Democrats try and resettle these people into red areas. The Democrats can be worried, oh, well, maybe a couple of these people will go to New York City or California. Sure, that might happen, but most of these folks are going to stay where they're put. If you fly them to Nashville, they're probably going to end up settling in Nashville. So I think that this is certainly mitigating the problem of illegal immigration, and it is transferring the costs from these small towns in Texas or even other states, transferring the costs of illegal immigration from those people onto the richest folks in America, the residents of New York City, Martha's Vineyard, Washington D.C. Well, yeah, I mean really, the Washington D.C. folks are some of the wealthiest folks. Even though the average Washington, citizen is very, very poor. The people who live there who work for the regime are incredibly wealthy. I think like 4 out of the 5 richest zip codes in America are, right around Washington, D.C. And every last one of them believes in, unfettered migration from Central America and wherever else in the world, whoever can get here. So in short, I support this. I don't agree with the folks, who are going who are mad about, this isn't being tough enough. Hey, you got to play with the hand you're dealt. This is a creative solution. It shows an ability to think on their feet. I mean, you never see Republicans doing anything creative like this. And if Kari Lake wants to be even tougher when she's governor, hey, that's great. I would love to see more governors staking out the positions of taking on more responsibility and asserting the rights of state governments. If she thinks that on her own she can defend the border, with state resources, I think that would be great. If she wants to try and deport people, using state authority, I would love to see her push the envelope on that. And so maybe she's upset because she's saying that these other governors, hey, if she's going to try and do it, she thinks they would have the same power to do that too. And so maybe she thinks that they just need to push a little harder and that this isn't being defiant enough. And if that's the case, I respect that. And maybe, she could convince me of that. And as an aside, I think that she's one of the most, or probably the most exciting candidate in any of the contested elections going on this year. I certainly hope to see her elected in Arizona because I'm interested to see what that will look like. And I would like to see how having someone that is perhaps, if her position is DeSantis isn't aggressive enough, someone who is more assertive, who tries to stand up even more for her voters, I would like to see the results of that. And I appreciate her trying to push the Overton window if that's indeed what happens. Because you're going to get no complaints from me if you say DeSantis isn't good enough. He's not. He's not a perfect guy by any means. But he has been the best governor in the country over the last couple of years by a long mile. So there's plenty of room to try. You can outshine him. You can outdo him. You can out-freedom him. Easily. Go do it. And then I want other governors to come along and try and outdo Carrie Lake if she does indeed outdo DeSantis. So, with that said, I will see you folks back here tomorrow.